I think this is a really smart looking machine, and it's very small as well. It's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's most likely bigger than older models of the ZX Spectrum, and this is the one that's known as the Toast Rack, but I think the real name for it is ZX Spectrum Plus 128K. But you do have to start plugging things into it. And the first thing for me, it's not absolutely essential, but I do kind of like using a joystick. So I've got this interface, but when I do play games, it works under the Sinclair standard. Alright, so we've got that. And of course you need to plug in something to get a picture on your TV. So I've got this RGB SCART cable. And then to be able to hear sound, you do have to plug this in into mic, if I remember right. Of course you need to plug the power cable in. I'll just plug a joystick into that interface in the back. And you're not going to get much use out of your machine unless you can load a program or save a program. So you need to plug in some sort of tape player. Or if you're lucky enough to own a cartridge, you can plug a cartridge into the interface in the back there. But for me, I'm just using this tape player. And I'll plug that in there. And there you go. It looks a little bit different now, doesn't it? Well, Slightly Magic doesn't work, so I'm going to play Rainbow Islands instead. I had planned to do a video of Slightly Magic, and I tried loading it up about 5 different times, and every time this happened. Slightly Magic. And I tried it on both sides of the cassette. With older models you'd have to type in a basic command to get games to load, but with this one, if you want to load 128K games, then you can just press enter and it will go to the loader. I timed it like I usually do, and this game takes almost exactly 10 minutes to load up, and thankfully it loads the entire game in one go. Like a lot of computer games, this title screen is a little bit bare bones. Don't forget to press up to add credits. Look at this, how colourful is this for a Spectrum game? You can see there your little man does get hidden behind the colours sometimes. It does move at a pretty good pace as well. They did a really good job with this game. Of course, they're limited by how many colours they can use when they're drawing the graphics, but everything looks like it should do. I think the main character looks a little bit different. This is not an early Spectrum game, so I think the artists involved were probably experts at this point at getting the most out of the machine. But there's a yellow pot there, so that will increase the speed of my rainbows, and I think red ones increase how many rainbows you fire at once. Yeah, it does slow down a little bit. You might notice the music slowing down a little bit every now and then. This game's got everything really, hasn't it? It's nice and colourful, it moves pretty well, it's got good gameplay, it's accurate to the arcade original, it's got music and sound effects. Now, I must admit I haven't played this particular version of the game all that often. I only bought it quite recently, but I'm still familiar with the game because I played the Amstrad version all those years ago. It's available on quite a lot of different systems, and they're all pretty accurate to the arcade. So if you've played one, then you can get the gist of it. Can you see there how those background tiles, there's no orange on the Spectrum, but they've drawn that red and yellow in such a way that it actually kind of looks orange. So for those that don't know the aim of the game, all you really have to do here is just get up to the top. They only scroll up and down, so just get to the top. You've got your rainbows, which are weapons, but they're also platforms. When you kill an enemy, normally, you will just get some fruit from them. But if you kill them by smashing the rainbows from above and having them drop on the enemies, then you'll get a better item. And there are a few different items you should look out for. There's the red and yellow pots, which make your rainbows faster and bigger, or you'll get more rainbows at once. You've got the shoes, which make you faster, and there are the diamonds. Now, if you collect all of the different diamonds, then you'll get an extra life, and it's not completely random. You will be able to choose by killing the enemies on different parts of the screen from left to right. It's still not easy, but that is how you do it. And if you get all of them in order from left to right, which is even harder to do, then you'll get a special power up that will last for the whole level. Oh, there we go. I got an extra life there because I collected all of the different coloured gems. Now I'm getting very close to the first level boss here. There's a boss at the end of every 4th level. I'm doing alright here, I haven't lost a life. I reckon they could have done a better job with that spider, because kind of looks like they drew it small and then just resized it. I'm pretty sure the other versions of this game have a more detailed spider. Ooh, careful now. But that side, yeah, this is really, really good. We're on to Combat Island now. And it's really much the same from island to island. The thing you might notice though is that the graphics are all completely different. There's different enemies with different behaviours, and the background graphics are all different. It's one of those games, and I do find this with quite a lot of them Taito arcade games, is that when you start off, you feel like your main character is really powerful and you can just blast through, and then the game does start to get gradually more difficult. But I always find there's a sticking point. Say for instance I won't lose a life, and then I'll get to a point where I screw up and I end up losing all of my lives in one go. I think after I've played this, I'll probably have a quick go on the Amstrad version, and maybe even the Commodore 64 version, just to compare them. I've got a feeling the Amstrad one is probably a little bit slower than this, and the Commodore 64 version is probably a lot smoother, but probably really scruffy. And I do find with Spectrum games, and it might just be the model of Spectrum that I have, but the music does seem to be really quiet. Now I don't think this game uses the beeper for anything, but when it does, that tends to be a lot louder than the sound chip, and it sounds a bit irritating. So thankfully this game doesn't use the beeper at all, but it is very quiet. I'm not really a fan of the choice of dark red here. Because you really can't see your character, can you? He stands out better in the yellow than he does in the red. I feel like I'm doing really well, but I'm not that far into the game. There is quite a lot of levels in this game. So they've done a pretty good job squeezing it all into one load. Oh, careful Andy. They're firing bullets at me, but I can't really see them. Hey, got another one. Alright. So you can see in the bottom left there that I've got 5 lives, and I haven't lost one yet. I'm not just gonna compare. I'm not gonna keep making comparisons to the other versions of this game. But it is a bit of a flaw with the Spectrum that you do hide behind the background colour sometimes, and I think that's why a lot of Spectrum games just avoid having backgrounds. So this second boss here, again it looks like they've drawn him small and then doubled the size. And what he does is that eventually he'll just vertically he'll just match your level. Oh, I walked into that. I'm pretty sure you should be able to damage him by dropping rainbows on him, but I don't think it worked when I tried it. Now, yeah, you lose all your power-ups when you die, and if you've reached the boss, then it will force you to restart at the boss. So if you don't beat the boss straight away, then it becomes a lot more difficult. Although this boss is not particularly difficult, I just screwed up a lot. Oh, close one. I think it was Retro Gamer magazine, I don't know, it might have been a really old issue, that there was a guide to play the game, but it also had a little page where it showed off all the different versions, and there might have been a review with someone from Graft Gold, and even they said they were surprised at how well the Spectrum handled the game. And I think you'll find with the Spectrum that it's not really designed to do anything specifically. It was just supposed to be a cheap machine for people to use in their homes. So just by sheer luck, it's just about fast enough to do scrolling games with a couple of sprites on screen. And you can sort of see that if you compare Spectrum games to Amstrad games, you'll find that Amstrad games are just a little bit too slow. And that's because that machine, again, was not really designed with these sorts of games in mind. And so the Spectrum being as fast as it is, in most cases, it's just about fast enough. They probably could have made it faster, but it would have been a lot scruffier. Because there's all sorts of other little things that you don't really notice that slow it all down. I've picked up a power-up here that fires out explosions every time I jump. Oh, Andy, why did you do that for? So you will notice a little bit more slowdown here because it gets a bit busy on screen. It starts to throw enemies at you. Actually, I think I don't even have any lives left now. I had 5 lives before I took on that helicopter boss, and now I've only got 1 left. Or none left, in fact. And that is a look at Rainbow Islands for the ZX Spectrum, the 128K version. Really, really good conversion. So that's the end of the video, thank you.